This is taking me a while, so people start to get really mad at me. Like, they start to slash spit on me. They start calling me names. I didn't understand what they meant. I really honestly just started to panic. Hey everyone, it's Raz Games here, and today I wanted to talk about what it is like to start playing World of Warcraft as a new player. I started in 2020. That's 4 years ago at this point, but I still feel like 99% of the World of Warcraft players that I know have all been playing it for a really long time. I haven't ever met anybody in-game, in real life, that started brand new within the past couple years. So I kind of wanted to talk about that a little bit and what that was like for me. Obviously, we are not playing World of Warcraft while I talk about this. We're going to play RuneScape. We're going to do some necromancy rituals, and the reason why we're going to play RuneScape is because this is the game that I've been playing for almost 20 years now. So a lot of the people that have been playing World of Warcraft for the same amount of time, like, that's their home, that's their nostalgia. This is what this is that for me. I grew up playing RuneScape. I first started playing in 2005. So yeah, we're gonna play some RuneScape. Plus, it's just really easy for me to just do something simple as I talk about this. If I tried to play WoW and I tried to, like, do questing or whatever, I don't think it would go very well. This is a new skill that RuneScape introduced. I think it was sometime last year, and I haven't really started working on it until this year. Thought it would be very fitting for us to talk about what it was like to start WoW while I play the MMO that I've been playing for 20 years. Almost 20 years. So, let's get this started. I started playing World of Warcraft in 2020. The pandemic had just hit, we were all stuck at home, and my partner suggested that we play WoW, that it would be a nice way to socialize with people. He had also played WoW previously, whereas I had not, and he had been talking about getting back into WoW even before the pandemic hit. And he kept talking about how he wanted to get back into it, how much he missed it. So finally, when the pandemic hit and we had all this extra time on our hands, he was like, hey, like, why don't we do this? And he actually even offered to pay for my subscription because I was very hesitant. I, of course, had heard of World of Warcraft, but I had really never touched it. I decided, well, he's going to pay for my membership, and he did at first until I kind of took over once I found out that I really enjoyed it. And so I was like, what is there to lose? So I'm gonna try this World of Warcraft thing. So that's when I started. But before I get into what it was like, I wanted to talk about why I never played World of Warcraft early on, and why RuneScape and Lotro and all these other games were the MMOs that I played, and why I played them mostly by myself. My Twitch channel, The Lonely Adventure, I named it that because I played MMOs by myself. I did mostly solo player games, and I thought that The Lonely Adventure was kind of funny because people kind of make fun of people for playing MMOs by themselves. They're like, oh, why would you play an MMO and just play it by yourself? They're supposed to be like social games, blah, blah, blah. I have actually a video planned on that, playing MMOs by yourself versus with people. Because I have been on both sides of that equation. So stay tuned for that video. I'm going to make that video later on. The reason why I played RuneScape instead of World of Warcraft was two main reasons. First, when I was growing up, let me see, how old was I in 2005? So I was 13 in 2005. I started playing RuneScape because I had some friends that played RuneScape, some in real life friends that played RuneScape. And they introduced me to the game. I was over at their house and they kind of showed me, oh yeah, like, it's just this game where you kind of go around and you do whatever you want. And that was a brand new concept to me because prior to RuneScape, I had played very linear games. The first video games that I ever played, like the first real video games, were the Harry Potter PC games. I was pretty obsessed with Harry Potter. You name the Harry Potter thing, I had it. And my parents really leaned into that for me. The thing that my parents didn't lean into for me was paying for subscriptions to video games. So RuneScape had a really good free-to-play model. I think from what I've heard, the free-to-play model nowadays is not as good as it was. That's just what I've heard, that they really, really try to push the membership on you, whereas back then you could really get away with playing RuneScape free-to-play. The other thing is RuneScape could be played through the browser. So I didn't have to install anything on my parents' computers. I didn't have a computer at the age of 13. I could kind of fly under the radar as I was playing this. When I earned my own allowance, I don't remember when they introduced these. Leave a comment down below, because I cannot remember the year they started doing this, but if you remember, please tell me. RuneScape introduced these game time cards. So you could go to Target or you could go to Best Buy and you could buy these physical cards that you could purchase a membership through. So that's what I started doing. That's how I started paying for a membership. And then once I hit high school, my parents bought me my own laptop, and it was supposed to mostly be for school, but we all know that it never ends up being fully for school. They bought me my own laptop, and then I installed Lord of the Rings Online. I've always been a huge Lord of the Rings fan. I watched the movies as a kid. I always loved them. Eventually, I did read the books, including the Silmarillion. So I actually really enjoyed the Silmarillion. I thought it was really good. Lord of the Rings Online also had a fantastic free-to-play model. It was really a lot more robust than the RuneScape free-to-play model. At this point, I had a full RuneScape membership. By high school, I was working my own jobs. I had like a summer-fall job that I worked, so I was able to pay for my own membership at this point. Lotro, the membership was quite a bit more pricey. It's closer to like a WoW subscription versus the RuneScape at the time was like $5 to $7 a month. So I was playing the Lotro free-to-play for a good amount of time as well. That's what I really grew up playing. That's kind of my background in video games. And I think that is important to note, because neither of these games, either RuneScape or Lotro, did I ever do any sort of end game content, nor did I play with other people. I was playing, like, I did have some RuneScape friends, ones that were in real life and ones that I met through the game that I did play with. So I did have friends that I would play in RuneScape, but I did play Lord of the Rings Online by myself. I think I should make very clear that I didn't even know what endgame was. If you've ever played RuneScape, you know that RuneScape, and there's not really an endgame in RuneScape. Like, yes, you can get all of your skills to 99 or 120, and then you can start doing like the really big bosses. You can start, but there's not really a tangible end game progression, unless there is, and I just don't know about it. Maybe they have introduced that now. In Lotro, there is end game, but I never made it there. I would level my characters to max, and then I would just play my alts or whatever. I never really got into endgame. I was in kinships and stuff, so I was a little bit social there, but I never regularly did. There was a few dungeons that I did. There was one raid that I did, but Lotro very much operates the same model as WoW Classic, where if you want to do a dungeon or raid, you have to call out in chat, you have to get your group together, and you have to physically go there. I never really did too much of that just because that was a lot of effort. I did do the Great Barrow, and I did do the Turtle Raid. I feel like everybody at Lotro has to do the Turtle Raid at some point. If you have played Lotro, you know exactly what I'm talking about. So I did do those like once or twice. Now that you kind of know my background and you know where I'm coming from and you know that I had never experienced any sort of endgame, I was playing 90% on my own. Like I said, I had a couple in-game friends, couple in real life friends, but that was really it. World of Warcraft begins. It is March of 2020, and I download the game and I start playing. And immediately I decided I wanted to be Horde. I really liked the look of the characters. I like things that are a little bit more gritty and grungy, and the Alliance seemed a little too like pretty and lawful good for me. And I tend to like the bad guys more, and I know the Horde aren't bad guys, okay? Like, but as coming in as a new player, that's how I saw it. That's how I saw the Horde, was like, oh, like these are like the bad guys, like these are the edgelords, and that's what I wanted to be. We both played Horde, and my partner, he also wanted to play Horde as well. Like he was really not into the Alliance, so So we played Horde, and the first character that I made was a troll warlock. I really liked the look of the trolls. I thought they looked really cool. And then when I got to the first leveling area with the trolls and they were like, "Hey, man, just take a moment," I was like, okay, sold. I love these guys. And I really liked the idea of a warlock. I love the idea of like summoning demons and like dark magic and all this other sort of stuff. So yeah, that really spoke to me. So I made a troll warlock and her name was Razasha. So my first WoW nickname was Raz. That's what everybody called me, and that's why I named this channel Raz Games. Razasha was my first character, my troll warlock. And so I at first treated World of Warcraft like I treated any other video game, any other MMO that I played. I just leveled through the zones. I started leveling, and eventually I got to Zuldazar, which this was BFA at the time. I don't remember what patch of BFA it was. It was in March of 2020. You can comment down below and let me know which patch it was. I don't remember which one it was. It was either 8.3 or 8.4. I can't remember. But all I know is that it was the era of the Nyalotha raid, which I will talk about later. I leveled my character to max, and that's all I expected to do, really. I didn't really know what else to do. I unlocked like all the world quests and stuff, and I was kind of running around doing these world quests because I thought that they were fun, and doing random side quests and whatever. I wasn't that's really all I was doing once I hit max level. My partner started doing LFR to try to get some gear. I did not understand what LFR was. I did not understand what that even meant. So then he told me, "Oh, this is where you can just queue up and you're in a place with like 25 other people and you kill these bosses." And I was like, "Oh, okay, wow, I sort of did something like that in Lotro, so why not give it a try?" So I started doing LFR as this brand new player. It was a really interesting experience. Like I queued up into it with my partner, and he told me right away, "Oh, hey, just a heads up, people don't do mechanics." And I kid you not, you're all probably going to laugh at me. I asked him, "What's a mechanic?" And so he's like, "Okay, well, you have to know like what to do in the fight, and you have to do the mechanics." Like, I don't remember how he explained it. The thing is, it's not like I hadn't experienced mechanics before. I had fought bosses in RuneScape, I had fought bosses in Lotro, but the thing is, with a lot of the harder bosses in RuneScape, you absolutely do need to do mechanics, but I was never really that big of a bosser in RuneScape. So there was like basic mechanics that I knew how to do, like, oh, run out of this swirly, or dodge this, or hide behind that. Like, I knew extremely basic mechanics like that, but again, it was RuneScape, and it's fighting and combat in RuneScape is a completely different animal. It's nothing like WoW. It really is nothing like WoW, and part of the reason why I don't really do a whole lot of bossing or a whole lot of fighting in RuneScape is because, honestly, trying to do any sort of mechanic in a click to move type of environment is garbage. Okay? Like, once I, like, my combat skills are, I technically have enough combat skills to do, like, the Queen Black Dragon, for example, but every single time I've tried, like, I misclick or I run one square too far, because in the Queen Black Dragon, she has a mechanic where she has this wall of fire that comes towards you, and it's a pretty good size arena. I would say it's about the size of this area. So there's this huge wall of fire that comes all the way across your screen, and then there's one square. There's one square that you have to run to in order to dodge this wall of fire. In World of Warcraft, this would be no problem. You just press W, you go to that space, it's fine. In RuneScape, if you click like 1 inch too far, you're done. And that's what kept happening to me, is like, I would do my best, like, I would really like focus on lining up my cursor, but maybe my camera angle was weird, or maybe I was just panicking, and I know it takes practice, but it's so much different than just pressing W and going to where you need to go. I don't know. So that was kind of a tangent on mechanics, but again, I'm just giving background as to why I was so confused, where I was like, if we don't do mechanics, everybody dies? What? Like, that was just not a thing in my head. And so he kind of told me, like, this is before I had any add-ons installed. He kind of verbally told me, like, what I was supposed to do with these mechanics. And so I tried my best and eventually got through it. And so I was like, wow, it was an interesting experience. I'm not going to lie. I didn't think LFR was all that fun. It wasn't a terribly fun experience for me, as a new person. I didn't really know what I was doing. I tried my best to, like, do these mechanics, but it was a little bit hard to understand exactly what I was supposed to do. I just kind of followed along with what everybody else was doing. I paid attention to chat. I really did try my best, but it was still one of those things where it's like, I don't really know what I'm doing. So eventually we joined a guild, and this guild was raiding. And eventually we joined the raid. And this guild, fortunately, was pretty chill at the time. I'm no longer in this guild. We told them that we were brand new, and they were very welcoming. They were very understanding. They were all really funny. I really liked all of them. They were really cool. And they were the first ones that told me about add-ons. So they told me that I should install Deadly Boss mods to help me with the mechanics. So I did that, and I loved it. As a new player, DBM was a lifesaver because it actually told me in very simple terms what I was supposed to do. So I loved DBM. And then after that, I didn't get details installed for a while because I didn't get it installed until we started progressing on Heroic Nyalotha. And I was told my DPS was low. And I didn't understand what that meant until they told me to install details. So I installed details. Lo and behold, yeah, I'm like at the bottom of the charts on the DPS. Rotations. I was playing a Demonology Warlock. And you're probably like, wow, Demonology Warlock is not good for a beginning player. No, it is not. But how was I supposed to know? When you sign up for the game and you pick your character and you pick your class, there's nothing to indicate that it's a hard class. Pretty much any spec of Warlock, you know, there's quite a bit of a rotation. You're a caster class, so it's not the easiest to play, especially when you're first starting out. Not only did I not know what a rotation was. Okay, I shouldn't say I didn't know, because when I was playing, I had obviously leveled up from scratch. So I had been reading my abilities, and I kind of understood how they work together, understood how to build and spend soul shards. I understood it at a very basic level just by reading my abilities and just figuring out on my own. And so when I saw how low my DPS was, I didn't really understand why. There's another part to this, and that was Azurite armor. So y'all remember the Azurite armor. If you don't, actually, let me pull up a picture of this. You had all these different and basically enhancements to your abilities, and you would lock in which ones that you wanted here and here. When I first got my Azurite armor, I just picked whatever ability I thought sounded cool, honestly. Like, I was like, oh, that sounds really cool. Maybe I'll do that one. That sounds fun. I'll do that one. Eventually, I was told to go to Wowhead and figure out what my rotation was, what my gear was, and what my Azurite armor traits were. And I found out that everything was wrong, basically. Like, I had picked all the wrong talents. Talents was another thing. Back then, there were no talent trees. You just, like, got to pick from a row of, like, 3. Turns out my talents were all wrong. My Azurite armor was all wrong. I wasn't doing this rotation. Like, there's all of this stuff that I had to go elsewhere and had to have other people tell me in order to find this out. I start looking up YouTube guides. I start, looking up all this stuff about how to play my class and what Azurite traits I should have and what talents I should have. So finally, I have all that, and my DPS is still really low. And I really honestly chalk that up to just being a new player. I had not been playing for very long. I, was trying my best to like do this rotation, but I was just brand new to all this. Level up. I was just really brand new to all this, and I was not used to having to think so much about all this other stuff while I am just trying to survive these pretty difficult fights. Because, yeah, we were raiding heroic at this point. I think my cat wants on my lap. Hang on. This is Katniss. She's my baby. I've had her since 2014. That's when I first got her. Hi. Alright, while Katniss makes her biscuits... Oops, I'm in the middle of a ritual. So that was kind of how raid was going for me. It was not going very well. My DPS was really low. And eventually I did have to get benched for raid when we started trying to progress on N'Zoth. People were trying to get their AOTC, and so they kind of had to cut the people that were, doing low DPS. So of course I was kind of included in that mix. In the meantime, I didn't even know what a Mythic Plus dungeon was. We eventually kind of found out. I don't remember how, because I had joined a couple, at this point I had joined a couple World of Warcraft Facebook groups, and people were talking about like this Mythic Plus thing, and I was like, what the heck is that? I don't remember exactly how we found out how to do Mythic Plus, but we did. I think it was a combination of just searching online and asking our guild members. So my partner and I, by this point, we had made friends with a person from the guild. We were kind of playing with him. We all start doing Mythic Dungeons together. Dave was a Death Knight, and so was my partner. My partner was tanking, and me and Dave were DPSing, and I was the Warlock, and Dave was the DK, so we all kind of just started doing that together. Please don't look at my bank. It is a hot mess. I probably have a family of 4 raccoons living in here. So the Mythic Plus dungeons, surprisingly, and our group actually had a much easier time with Mythic Plus than we did with Raid. At this point, I actually started to play Destruction Warlock because I was kind of told that that was what was good and I should be playing Destruction instead. And I think at the time, both Demonology and Affliction were not doing so well. And I have very strong opinions about the whole what's good classes and all that. But yeah, I started playing Destruction, and I had a much easier time in Mythic Plus doing damage and contributing to the group than I did with Raid. I really, really was struggling in Raid, and if you all remember, the N'Zoth fight was a lot of moving, especially right away in the beginning. There was like this mob that you had to kite him around, and you had to bring him to all these different tentacles, and I was just struggling really, really hard. Because I don't know how casters do it. A lot of them can figure out how to still do their rotation and how to still perform well even when there is a lot of movement mechanics. And I never really figured that out. Destruction Warlock in general and Demonology tend to do really well in AoE situations, which is M+. So yeah, I was doing really well in M+, still struggling with Raid, but eventually I got AOTC. Once people started to they started rotating people in and getting people their AOTC, this guild was. So eventually it was a really, really tense fight. We barely made it in the nick of time, but we got the AOTC, and it was a really, really great feeling. I got my AOTC, which was really aggressive considering how quickly. It was literally the last week to be able to get AOTC is when I got it. So I don't remember when that was. So I started in March of 2020 and I got AOTC the last possible week that you were able to get AOTC. So I don't know what that timeline was like. You can probably look it up. You can look up when the raid was released and when the last week to get it was. But yeah, I got AOTC the last possible week that you were able to get it. And I've seen videos like this before where people kind of post about how WoW does not tell you how to play the game. You have to do all this extra outside stuff in order to be able to play it. And I found that to be extremely true. I didn't understand what a rotation was. I didn't understand that I needed all these add-ons. Like, there was just so much that I did not understand. I just feel very fortunate that the guild I was in at the time, and at the time they were being like very chill and understanding that I was a new player. And even though they did have to bench me, I did find out eventually that that's kind of a normal thing that happens in guilds. The most Googling outside of a game that I had done prior to playing WoW was if I was stuck on a quest in RuneScape, or if I was stuck on a quest in Lotro, or whatever. I don't really want to focus on the negatives because I feel like a lot of people focus on kind of the negatives of starting as a new player in World of Warcraft, and how it's like, oh, it's so hard and it's so new player unfriendly and like blah 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 blah. That is true, okay? That is all true. And I just happened to be lucky where I was with a group of people who at the time were very kind and understanding and were very, very helpful. So I think this whole new player experience with World of Warcraft, when you start to get into endgame, finding a group of good people, kind people to play with is pretty essential. But let me tell you a story of some not nice people and how unfriendly WoW really can be to new players. So this is a story that I tell time and time again, and it just shows that WoW players can be extremely toxic to new people, and they think that just because somebody doesn't do something or does something wrong, it doesn't mean that they're trolling. They could be just a new player. So here's my story. Back before I started doing raid, after I had leveled to max and I was kind of running around doing world quests, there was a world boss in Nazjatar. And so I went to go kill this world boss. And keep in mind, I had not done raid. I had not done Mythic Plus dungeons. Like, I was freshly level like 160 or whatever at the time that you could be. I was a fresh max level, just running around doing world quests, having a good time, and went to go kill this world boss. And my partner had told me how to find a group for that, so I joined a random group to kill this world boss. I'm kind of sitting around just waiting for the group to form, and somebody in the chat types cookies ? And I looked at this chat in the raid group chat, and I was like, why are they asking for cookies? And so I'm just kind of sitting there waiting, and eventually the group gets full, and another person says, cookies ? Please, or something like that. And I'm just like, what? Okay, like, everybody gets a cookie for forming the group? What's going on? And then I see people start to emote at me. Someone pokes me, someone says, hey. Actually, several people started doing that. And then in the chat, the chat starts to fill up with, lock rocks, please. Lock rocks, please. Cookies, please. And I realize they're talking to me. And they're asking me for cookies or lock rocks. And I'm just like, what? I really honestly just started to panic. So I opened my spell book. I'm looking for cookies. I'm looking for rocks. I'm looking for anything in my spell book that resembles a cookie, a rock, a whatever. And this is taking me a while. So people start to get really mad at me. Like, they start to slash spit on me. They start calling me names. I didn't understand what they meant by lock rocks or cookies. And I'm desperately trying to look in my spell book and figure out what it is. Eventually they give up and somebody starts the fight. But people were absolutely livid at me. Obviously, they meant make a soul well. How was I supposed to know that? There was no way for me of knowing, and you could make the argument that I could have gone in chat and asked, what do you mean by cookies? What do you mean by lock rocks? What do you mean? But honestly, I feel like that would have made it worse for me. Like, with how angry people were getting, I feel like people would have just gotten more angry at me, and they would have just called me more names, and they would have just been a lot meaner to me, just because, like, the whole attitude of this group seemed to think that I was trolling them, or that I was being mean, or that I was purposely trying to troll them in some way. But I wasn't. I genuinely did not know what a lock rock was. I did not know what a cookie was. I didn't understand that at all. Eventually I did figure it out. After this, I had joined Raid, and they asked me for lock rocks, and so of course, like, this was a chill group of people, so I just asked in voice, what's a lock rock, and they told me, and it was fine. So yeah, that's just kind of my new player story of how mean people can be in World of Warcraft. And unfortunately, I think a lot of people do experience that as a new player in World of Warcraft, where they get into a situation where they don't have a group of people that are kind and understanding and know that they're a new player. And I think it can turn a lot of people off. So I think this kind of goes out to the WoW community as a whole, that if you're in a dungeon or something, or some kind of content where it's not really a requirement to kind of know what's going on. Like, I think if you're going to be like heroic raiding, or if you're going to be doing like Mythic Plus dungeons, absolutely you should know what all of these things were. I obviously figured that out by then, and I had a guild that was kind of helping to walk me through this. But yeah, if you're in some sort of like lower level content, if you're in a dungeon, if you're doing a world boss, and it seems like somebody is trolling you, or they seem like they're just being stupid or whatever, please, please, please remember that they could be brand new to the game, okay? Just because somebody doesn't know what something is, or they get lost, or they don't understand a mechanic in this lower level content, in these regular dungeons, in these world quests or world bosses, they could be brand new. This could be their first time playing the game. Don't ruin it for them. Don't make it a negative experience like that group did for me in that world boss, okay? Like, be kind to people and understand that not everybody has been playing this game for years and years and years, okay? Even though I have been playing for 4 years at this point, there's still so much about WoW that I don't understand. There is still something new that I learn every year that I didn't know before. So remember, just be kind and have patience with people, because it does seem like 99% of the people that I know in World of Warcraft have been playing forever, and I feel like so many WoW players just expect everyone to know what's going on and how to play the game. It's just a base expectation, and that's not always true. I really still consider myself, like, I'm not a new player at this point, but I often feel like it when people say, like, oh, do you remember when this happened in Cataclysm? Or they start talking about a character who I have no idea who they are and how it affects the game today. Or they start talking about a Blizzard staff member who returned and how it's going to affect the trajectory of the game. And I'm just like, I don't know what you mean. So that's kind of the negative side of starting WoW as a new player, which there are absolutely negatives. So here's the positive. I want to get into the positives of World of Warcraft and why I am so glad I started playing it. First of all, the people. When you get in with a really, really good group of people, it is like the best thing ever. There is something about being in a guild, being in a dedicated group of WoW players that you form connections with them that are unlike anything I've ever experienced. We regularly hang out with this other couple that are from upstate New York, so they live literally halfway across the country from us. We're still friends with them to this day. They were the first friends that we made in World of Warcraft back in 2020. We still play together. We still do all sorts of stuff together. When we took breaks from World of Warcraft, we played other games together. And the guild that I am in now, I love these people so much. I never thought that I would be so close with so many people from all over the country and all over the world, because our World of Warcraft server is lumped in with some of the Oceania servers. So we have people in our guild from Australia, from New Zealand. So I've made friends with people from all over the world, all over the United States, and it's fantastic. World of Warcraft has truly made me a better gamer. Because I started doing Raid and because I started doing Mythic Plus and I started learning about rotations and I learned a little bit about min-maxing. I'm not a super sweaty min-maxer. If you watch my World of Warcraft streams now, I'm not playing the meta talent builds. I don't even play the meta classes. But I learned learning about stat priority, learning about doing all these different mechanics, learning about all of these ways to just make yourself a better gamer has improved my gameplay in other games. Like, for example, in Lotro, I'm such a better Lotro player now. Now that I know what an interrupt is, how to effectively use your stuns, how to effectively use your stat priorities. Because before, when I was playing, Lotro is a lot like WoW in the fact that you also have stat priorities. You have like BIS gear. You have all this, I always call Lotro kind of WoW reskinned with Tolkien World. Because there's a lot of similarities between Lotro and WoW. I have become a lot more reactive. I used to just kind of panic if I would get in a bad situation, if I was in a battle while gaming, but now I've kind of learned to keep my cool. This isn't perfect, I will say. I still do panic sometimes, but it's not all the time like it used to be. But now I've actually learned how to use my CC, how to use my interrupts, how to use everything effectively. Even though it was really rough starting out, it really has been a fantastic experience. And would I recommend that people start playing WoW now? I would say yes. But I say yes, but. Yes, but find a group of people to play with. Because games like RuneScape and Lotro and some other MMOs, if you're not planning on doing any sort of endgame content, you can get away with playing alone. And that's what I did for many years, is I played alone for so many years, and it was fine. But in World of Warcraft, if you just want to level your characters, do some mount collecting, or do some pet battles, I think you're fine to play on your own. But if you're interested in doing raids or dungeons or anything, I really think it is essential to find a really good, welcoming, and easygoing group of people to play with. It will make all the difference in the world, and it really showed me why MMOs are meant to be played with people, because like I said, I had previously never really played with people. WoW showed me how amazing an MMO can be when you play with people. And I think that's the biggest lesson that it taught me, from somebody who went from solo playing MMOs to now I'm in a guild, now I'm doing raids, getting AOTC, KSM, KSH, all of that. I want to do a larger video on this later, so I'm not going to get too into it, but WoW endgame truly is better when you have a group of people to play with. I have had some of the best times of my life playing World of Warcraft. Not to diminish RuneScape or Lotro, I definitely have had a lot of lows in WoW, okay? Like, let's just make that very clear. It has not all been flowers and roses, okay? But that is, I don't want to get too into that. Maybe we'll talk about that in another video. I've had some really high highs in WoW, and I've had some really low lows as well. But fortunately, the highs have vastly outnumbered the lows, okay? I will be making a part 2 to this video, because there is a part 2 because after BFA ended, there was a lot more drama that happened in my World of Warcraft life in that first year. That first year of me playing World of Warcraft was kind of a wild ride, and I'll talk a lot about those ups and downs. So there will be a part 2 to this video, so stay tuned for that. Like, yes, WoW does not tell you how to play the game. Yes, there is a lot of outside research that you need to do. But for me, at least in my experience, and other people may experience differently, for me it was worth it. Once you get the hang of it, you got the hang of it, and you know what to do. And then if you ever have questions or concerns, you know, just ask the group of people that you're with, or look it up. Find a Discord server, find a Facebook group, you know, find anything that can help you. In conclusion, I'm very happy I started to play WoW. I'm looking forward to many more years of it in the future. I'm still going to continue to play all the old games that I know and love, that I grew up playing, but WoW is always going to have a very special place in my heart as well. So thank you all so much for watching, and maybe I'll see you in Middle-earth. Maybe I'll see you in Gielinor, or maybe I'll see you in Azeroth. Either way, I hope you all have a fantastic rest of your day. Bye.